Good afternoon. Can I help you?
Yes, I'd like to sign up for the intermediate course in Arabic, please.
Of course. There are 3 courses. One runs during the day. That's an intensive course that runs for 4 weeks. Then there is the weekend course, which runs for 8 weeks. Finally, the evening course runs for 12 weeks.
I'd like to join the intensive course, please. My company is posting me to Syria in 6 weeks, and I need to improve on my basic conversational Arabic before then.
I see. Have you taken a course here before?
Yes, I have. I took the Arabic refresher course during the summer. I really enjoyed it.
Do you have your registration card for that course? If so, it will speed up registration, and we can give you a 5% discount too.
I think I'd have it in my handbag. Yes, here it is. A little dog-eared, I'm afraid.
Thank you. Your name is David I'm sorry, the rest of your name is not clear.
Rivers. Rivers.
Ah, yes. OK, I have your details on the computer.
Actually, my address has changed since I took the previous course. My new address is 38 Temple Way.
Thank you. I'll just change that. Can I have your new postcode too, please?
Certainly. It's BM9 2EV. My new home telephone number is 698-4537. My mobile number is the same as before.
That's 0987 375 633.
That's right.
It says here that the teacher was very impressed with you.
Really? Ahmed was a great teacher. Is he still here?
I'm afraid not. He went back to Syria. Since you're going there, I'd love to give you his email address, but I'm afraid it's against company policy.
That's okay. I think I have his email address written on the back of the registration card. I have it on my laptop as well somewhere.
I'm sure he'd be glad to hear from an ex-student.
I'm banking on it. I wouldn't mind having a friend in Syria when I go there.
I'm sure he'll be glad to show you around. The course runs Monday to Friday from 10 to 12 and 1 to 3. 9 students have signed up so far. Is that okay?
No problem. And the cost?
£380 after your discount.
Thank you. Here's my credit card. Will the course be held in this building like last time?
Yes, it will, in classroom 4. The teacher this time is Mrs. Aziz.
Oh, I've met her. She seems well-spoken and friendly. I'm looking forward to her class already.
Oh, we've had very positive feedback from students about her classes. May I ask if you have a few minutes to answer a few questions? We're conducting a survey of our clients. It won't take long, I promise.
Oh, I'm not in a hurry. Go ahead.
The first question is about why you chose to study Arabic. I've got your answer to that one. How did you first hear about our school?
Well, I saw a newspaper advertisement. I think it was in the Standard, and then I mentioned it in conversation with a friend who had studied French here, and she said she was very happy with the course.
Oh, I see. What was your friend's name?
Mary Wright with a W.
Wright. Thank you. Do you think you would be interested in taking courses other than in Arabic?
I doubt it. I need to speak a little French and German in my line of work, but I speak those languages to an acceptable level. So further improvement is unnecessary. I've always been interested in learning an Oriental language like Chinese, but I don't really need either, so...
What is important to you when selecting a school? Could you put these 5 items in order, please? 1 indicates the most important.
Teachers is top of my list for sure. Recommendations from others. Yes, that's next. Teaching materials. No. Location. Then admin staff. I think a good teacher can make use of even quite poor materials, so that would be the least important to me.
Any other important points that are not on the list?
A welcoming reception area. Group size, perhaps up to 12 students. That's a big attraction for me. It creates a better atmosphere, friendlier, more personal. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Thank you very much for that. Here's a complimentary English-Arabic pocket dictionary with our thanks.
Welcome to this short, and you have my word, it will be short, presentation on the conference and meeting facilities available at the Construction Education Centre. The Construction Education Centre is the established focal point for many major activities connected with building materials, construction, architecture and design, and even some activities outside those areas. For almost 70 years it has remained at the heart of the industry, and today plays host to many important events, receiving over 100,000 visitors, trainees and delegates throughout the year. The Construction Education Centre provides the perfect venue for a wide range of business, educational and social functions, including conferences, seminars, meetings, special events, product launches and press events, exhibitions, presentations, lectures and training classes. Our team of experienced personnel is on hand to ensure your event runs smoothly, and our aim is to remove the normal worries and concerns from function organisers so that events are both cost-effective and anxiety-free. Some of our recent clients include Design for Homes, the Association of Building Engineers, Learn Direct, the London Housing Federation, and even the College of Law. A full range of equipment is available for use, including a slide projector, which is available for half or whole days, video and monitor, 35mm carousel slide projector with infrared remote control and screen, flip charts and accessories, laser pointers and lecterns. Other audiovisual equipment can be provided, as well as access to broadband internet services. Details are provided on request. My business card is attached to the brochures you've been given. Allow me to provide you with a brief introduction to our range of rooms. On this slide you can see the main conference room. We call it the London room. Spacious, isn't it? This room has the advantage of central movable panels, making it an ideal venue for seminars of up to 140 people or receptions for up to 200. The suite may also be used for presentations. The room may be divided into 3 separate rooms if required. This slide shows you the Bloomsbury room. It is also ideally suited for seminars and lectures. There is seating for 72 people, or it can be used as a reception area for up to 100. Next, we have 2 rooms that are very similar. Indeed, we have given them virtually identical names. We call them Holborn 1 and Holborn 2. They are both suitable for small meetings, training classes and presentations. Holborn 1 is slightly larger, capable of hosting 20 to 22 people, whilst Holborn 2 holds a maximum of 18 people. The Oxford Suite measures 12 by 6 metres and provides a more spacious and luxurious environment for executive meetings and presentations. As you can see, it is particularly elegant and well furnished. The Construction Education Centre also has an exhibition area, which is used by many clients when they hold a conference or meeting. This can be used as a way of informing delegates of your company, or as a visual launch pad for your company or its products and services. Recently we held an exhibition entitled Sustainable London from Friday 9th of March until Saturday the 28th of April. Here are a few slides showing that exhibition. The Sustainable London exhibition presented the challenge, the response and progress towards a sustainable 21st century city. The exhibition featured over 60 different schemes, from private houses to master plans, and showed how local government, architects and engineers are employing technology to reduce environmental impact and address climate change. Here we can see an example of a display of environmentally friendly technology by some of the leading brands in the field. I would also like to show you a few slides showing our educational activities. Here you can see our vocational students assessing construction plans. We currently have about 120 students here at the CEC, and we hope to increase that number to 150 over the next 2 years. We provide a wide range of essential training for the people who will hold key positions in the construction industry of tomorrow. In this slide, you can see students at work on designing an environmentally friendly home. Their designs are later reviewed by experienced professionals and have led to changes in the way that such homes are designed. Finally, I'd like you to draw your attention to this slide showing the location of the Construction Education Centre. As you can see, it is located in the heart of London's East End in Story Lane, off Court Street. Limited metered parking is available outside the CEC, but there is a car park nearby in Russell Street. The nearest underground stations are Court Road and Russell Square. The centre is also within walking distance from Queen's Cross train station.
So, do you think taking a gap year between leaving school and beginning uni is worth it? I was just reading that it is estimated that at least 50,000 young people here in Britain take one each year.
I think it's a good idea for some, but not for most.
Oh, David, I disagree.
Well, Kelly, in the clamour to arrange a volunteer scheme placement or to book round-the-world plane tickets, how many school leavers, or their parents for that matter, stop to think about the true worth of taking a year out? Are gap years the life-changing, character-forming experience their prominents claim them to be? Or are they merely an excuse to waste time, burn money and delay the inevitable? How did the idea ever start anyway?
It says here that originally they were common mainly among Oxford and Cambridge applicants who were required to apply for a university place after already taking their A-levels. Once accepted, this gave them a further 9 months to travel or to do as they wished.
They're mostly a UK and Australian phenomenon. In the US, the tendency is still to go to college straight after leaving school. In most other European countries, gap years are rare, partly because students will often take longer to complete their university courses and have more time during the academic year to take time off.
Well, David says they might not be worth it. So, is there any way we can measure the cost?
Well, the first thing to do is to assume that you will use the time available to travel abroad for a length of time, working for a period beforehand to save up the money necessary. Let's see. Roughly speaking, you will probably need about £500 for the plane ticket, depending on where you go. Then you'll need up to £200 for the specialist travel insurance, and anything up to £5,000 to pay for the cost of internal travel in the countries you visit, plus food, accommodation and other sundries. Many gap year travellers can make do with about £3,000 in total, although this means living on a fairly tight budget.
But then you need to add the above cost for the foregone benefit of 1 year's salary after graduation. For example, say your first job after leaving university were to pay £15,000 to £20,000 a year. That's what you lose by taking a gap year.
Well, that's not entirely fair. You can measure value through personal development as well as financially. A gap year tends to broaden young people's horizons, helps them to mature and see things from a much wider perspective. It can motivate them to focus on their studies. Research shows that students are more likely to be satisfied with and complete their chosen course after taking a gap year. Many universities also say that they can tell the difference between those students who have taken gap years and those who have not, in terms of attitude, commitment, and general insights that are less evident in those who come straight from school. These are all benefits that a person will carry with him or her well past university. Many employers are on record as saying that they welcome job applications from students whose CVs say they took a year off, either before going to university or in some cases after graduating. They too are aware of the greater maturity and broader potential vision of those who have used their time constructively and learned something about the world.
That's true. Employers want graduates who can work well in teams, think independently, communicate effectively, and make informed decisions, all of which can be learned by taking a gap year. This potential to differentiate yourself from other applicants becomes all the more important at a time when up to 40% of young people are taking degrees, often graduating with good results. The key here is ensuring two things: that the time you have taken off is used constructively, and that you make it clear in any job application what you have learned from your gap year and how it applies to the post you are applying for. Swanning on a beach in Australia is hardly likely to impress the average employer.
There is no doubt that if you can show a practical approach, for example by volunteering with a charity, you will gain brownie points from many employers. But equally, any situation in which a young person has been required to learn new things, to act independently, to work for someone, to be able to mix with fellow travellers and people in the countries they are visiting, will be seen as a positive experience.
It says here that academic research carried out for the Department of Education suggests that employers recognise they stand to benefit from new recruits who, to quote one HR director, have been out of their comfort zones, and are thus more likely to have the flexibility and improvisation skills to deal with the demands of the graduate workplace.
Again, I think that the key thing is to make sure that your employer is steered into appreciating whatever experiences you have gained during that gap year. Clearly, telling a prospective boss that your 6 months on a beach in Oz was awesome will put you in a disadvantage compared with another applicant who goes into great details about the business skills learned by working in a cafe in the same location.
Welcome to this presentation on prairie dogs. You can see a picture of these rather cute animals on this slide. As you can see, they are about the size of a rabbit, and they have a brown or clay-coloured coat with black-tipped hairs and a black-tipped tail. The underside of the prairie dog is a light tan colour. They have short legs and sharp claws to help them dig their homes. Their bodies are 12 to 15 inches long, with a 3 to 4 inch tail, and they weigh 2 to 4 pounds. I've been interested in these animals for a long time and would like to talk about a remarkable discovery. The barks of prairie dogs have distinct individual meanings. Prairie dogs have different words for tall human in yellow shirt, short human in green shirt, coyote, deer, red-tailed hawk, and many other creatures. They can even coin new terms for things they've never seen before, independently coming up with the same calls or words, according to research done over 2 decades by a professor from Arizona University, who can now not only call himself a biology professor, but also a prairie dog linguist. Prairie dogs of the Gunnison species, which were studied intensely, actually speak different dialects in Arizona and in Colorado, but they would probably understand one another, research indicates. So far, this is believed to be, or prairie dogs appear to be, demonstrating the most sophisticated communication system that anyone has shown in animals. Prairie dog chatter is variously described by observers as a series of yips, high-pitched barks, or eeks. And most scientists think prairie dogs simply make sounds that reflect their inner condition. That means all they're saying are things like ouch, or hungry, or eek. But we now know that prairie dogs are communicating detailed information to one another about what animals are showing up in their colonies, and maybe even gossiping. Linguists have set 5 criteria that must be met for something to qualify as a language. It must contain words with abstract meanings, possess syntax in which the order of words is part of their meaning, have the ability to coin new words, be composed of smaller elements, and use words separated in space and time from what they represent. The American researchers focused their efforts on these 5 criteria to see if prairie dogs use a language as defined by human linguists or not. Work was done in the field and in laboratory. With digital recorders, they recorded the calls prairie dogs make as they see different people, dogs, and other animals of different sizes and with different coat colours, such as hawks and elk. They then analysed the sounds using a computer that dissects the underlying structure and creates a sonogram or visual representation of the sound. Computer analysis later identifies the similarities and differences. The prairie dogs have calls for various predators, but also for elk, deer, antelope and cows. It's as if they're trying to inform one another what's out there. So far, the researchers have recorded at least 20 different words. Some of those words or calls were created by the prairie dogs when they saw something for the first time. 4 prairie dogs in the lab were shown a great horned owl and European ferret, 2 animals they had almost certainly not seen before. If only because the owls are mostly nocturnal and this kind of ferret is foreign. The prairie dogs independently came up with the same new calls. In the field, black plywood cutouts showing the silhouette of a coyote, a skunk, and a circular shape were randomly run along a wire through the prairie dog colony. Now there were no black ovals running around out there, and yet they all had the same word for black circle. The researchers believe that prairie dogs are genetically programmed with some vocabulary and the ability to describe things. The researchers then played back a recorded prairie dog alarm call for coyote in a prairie dog colony when no coyote was around. The prairie dogs had the same escape response as they did when the predator was really there. In other words, there's no coyote present, but the prairie dogs hear this recording of prairie dogs barking, "Hey, there's a coyote," and they say, "Oh, coyote, better hide." Computer analysis has been able to break down some prairie dog calls into different components, suggesting the creatures have yet another element of real language. The researchers are quietly confident that they will establish that the prairie dogs will meet the 5 criteria set by linguists. Then there will be conclusive proof that animals have language. Good morning, Heathrow Airport Lost Property Office. How can I help you?
Good morning. I lost a briefcase at your airport yesterday and would like to report it, please.
Certainly, sir. Could you give me a brief description, please?
Of course. It's a very light brown briefcase, about 50 centimetres wide and 30 centimetres high. It's quite distinctive because it has a bright red clasp on the front and red trimmings. The handle is black. My initials AEJ are on the clasp.
Ah, just a minute, sir. I remember a briefcase matching that description being handed in yesterday. At about what time did you lose it?
My flight arrived from Sydney just after 3 in the afternoon. I had taken the briefcase onto my flight as hand luggage. After disembarking, it would have been almost 4 o'clock when I picked up my check-in luggage and left my briefcase at the carousel. It was so foolish of me.
Yes, here is the logbook. I'll just check that it's here. Do you have a pen and paper? You'll need to write down a few things to remember for when you claim your briefcase.
I'll just get that while you're checking.
Hello, are you there?
Yes, is my briefcase there?
It is. When you come to claim it, you'll need to tell whoever is on duty the lost property number. That's EDV 758. Have you got that?
EDV 758, got it.
You'll also need to bring some identification with you, something with your photograph on it. Most people present their passport.
Yes, of course. I'm flying to Austria next week, so I'll pick it up then.
That'll be fine. You'll have your passport with you, no doubt, so that can serve as identification.
My flight is in the evening, so I won't be at the airport until 7 o'clock at the earliest. Will the office be open at that time?
Yes, sir. We're open until 6. Sorry, I mean from 6 in the morning until midnight, every day.
Great. I just need to know where your office is.
It's in the main concourse of Terminal 1 at the airport. Will you be coming by taxi, by car?
I'll be arriving by underground.
OK, in that case, get off at the stop for Terminal 1. Go up the escalator to the main concourse. At the top of the escalator, turn left and you'll see a large departures board, an electronic one. If you face this, you should see our office off to the right, in the corner. It's clearly signposted.
Up the escalator, turn left. Off to the right of the departures board, got it. Thank you very much for your help.
That's what we're here for. I only wish we could return all the items we get handed in to us.
I guess you get dozens of items every day.
Yes, we've built up quite a collection.
What happens to the things that remain unclaimed, if you don't mind my asking?
Not at all. We keep each item for a minimum of 3 months. Twice a year, in June and December, we have a sale. The proceeds from the sale in June go towards the upkeep of the office, and the proceeds from the December sale go to a children's charity. The sales are by auction and attract a lot of interest from passengers and staff, as well as from the general public.
How interesting. One final thing. Who handed in my briefcase? It would be nice to thank them personally.
I'm afraid there's no record of that, sir.
What a pity. Well, thank you very much for your help. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Sophie West, and I'm here to give you some information and answer your questions about money when you're studying abroad. To obtain any form of entry clearance into the country where you wish to study, you will need to prove that you have enough money to cover your tuition, accommodation fees, and living expenses. Therefore, you need to arrange all your funding ahead of time. Start by working out how much money you will need. I believe that you will be having a presentation on that topic later this week, so I won't go into detail about it now. If you are hoping for a scholarship to help pay for your studies, then start making inquiries and applications now. The chance of arranging a bursary or scholarship or major funding after arrival is minimal, so it is essential to apply before you leave home. To find out what scholarships are available, you can contact the university you intend to study at and the Ministry of Education in your own country for further information. Let's look at possibilities for moving your money abroad. It is very risky to carry large amounts of cash when you're travelling. When the time comes to travel abroad, plan to take just enough cash to meet your immediate needs and send the rest of your funds by another method, such as international money order, bank draft, electronic transfer, or telegraphic transfer. Let's go through those one by one, shall we? You can buy an international money order before you leave, and then when you get to the country you're going to study in, you can pay it directly into your bank account. You can also exchange international money orders for cash at certain places. Remember to take your passport with you when you do this. A bank draft is similar to an international money order, except that you can only pay it into a bank account. You cannot exchange it for cash. Ask to have it made out to you in the local currency and draw on a local bank. That way, you will not pay a commission fee when you pay it into your account, and the funds will take less time to clear. That is, to move through the system and into your account. An electronic transfer is when your bank in your home country transfers funds from your home account directly to your account abroad. This is often the easiest way to transfer money, but it cannot be arranged until you have opened a bank account abroad. Telegraphic transfer is the fastest way to send money overseas, but it is also the most expensive. As with an electronic transfer, you can only arrange a telegraphic transfer after you have opened your bank account abroad. It cannot be arranged in advance. Most English-speaking countries place no limit to the amount of money you can bring into the country, but your government may control the flow of money in and out of your own country. In that case, you'll need to find out as soon as possible how to get permission to transfer money, whether there is a limit to how much you can transfer, and what regulations you must comply with. For further information, contact your local bank for advice on how to transfer your funds abroad. When you first go abroad, you will have lots of things to do, and it may be a few days before you are able to approach a bank and open a bank account. And once you do, it may take a while for your transferred funds to clear through the banking system. So altogether, it could be anywhere from 1 to 3 weeks before you have access to the funds you transfer. Obviously, you will need some other sources of money in the meantime. The possibilities include cash, traveller's checks and credit cards. Let's take a look at each of them. As I mentioned earlier, you should not carry large amounts of cash, but do bring a certain amount to cover the costs of your first few days or so. Cash is very useful for covering small purchases, such as drinks and snacks. If any of your dependents are travelling with you, you will obviously need to bring more cash. Most international airports have a 24-hour bank or bureau de change where you can change overseas currency or traveller's checks no matter what time you arrive. However, bear in mind that the exchange rates at these bureau de change are not very good. Keep this in mind when planning your cash needs. You can also exchange money at banks. In English-speaking countries, most are open from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday to Friday and on Saturday mornings. If you arrive outside those hours, plan to either exchange your money at the airport or seaport or bring enough cash to cover your needs until the banks open. Traveller's checks are much safer than carrying cash, as they are insured against loss or theft. They can be cashed at banks and bureau de change, and traveller's checks made out in their local currency can also be used like cash in many shops and restaurants. But check with the staff in each case to be sure to avoid embarrassment. Credit cards are widely accepted as payment in English-speaking countries, and you can also use them to get cash from the machines at banks. However, check with your bank at home to find out how much commission you will be charged if you use your home credit card abroad. It could be quite substantial. Now, let's take a look at
Good morning. I'm here for our meeting about creating lesson plans.
Ah, yes, bang on time. Come in and take a seat. Now, didn't I ask you to prepare something?
Yes, you did. You asked me to think of the possible uses for a lesson plan. Here's what I came up with. First, it helps the teacher with the pace and timing of a class. Second, it creates a focus for the teacher and also for the students. Third, it shows everyone what material is being covered, needs to be covered, or has been covered.
That's particularly useful if you have a strict syllabus to follow.
However, there does seem to be a need for a balance between covering material and choosing when to let a class flow and let students carry on an activity if it's leading to learning.
Yes, that's certainly true. Anything else?
It gives clear aims to the students and to the teacher. I think it's worth remembering that there are two perspectives to consider in the learning process. It also serves as a reminder for teachers to put aims first and materials second, rather than vice versa. Those are the 5 I came up with.
I think that you've got the most important, the key points. I can add another 5. A lesson plan also helps to highlight potential student problems and creates an opportunity to find a solution. Second, it brings cohesion and coherence to a lesson. Third, it clearly shows the interaction between teacher and student, or at least the expected interaction. As we both know, lesson plans don't always go according to plan. A lesson plan also clearly shows something else, the distribution of time spent on different skills. This can really show if your speaking or writing class is really about speaking or writing. And finally, it serves to remind you what materials you have to take into class.
Thank you. I've made a note of those points.
Take a look at this incomplete lesson plan. Do you have any ideas about what could be added to each section?
Let's see. The students are at low intermediate level, and the lesson will last for 50 minutes. The students are academic ones, staying in Australia for 3 months to improve their spoken English. The aim of the class is to elicit reading comprehension and speaking abilities for storytelling, as well as to practice the present simple and the past simple tenses.
Can you think of any personal aims that the teacher may have?
Perhaps one could be to avoid excessive instructions.
That's a good suggestion. What assumptions would you make if you were the teacher?
I'd assume that the students could understand the instructions. The topic is extreme sports. Perhaps I'd assume that they do not understand some of the vocabulary related to those sports. For example, the difference between mountain climbing and rock climbing.
So that would qualify as an anticipated problem?
Yes, it would.
And what solutions would you suggest?
Solutions? Perhaps one solution would be to elicit the difference from students via questioning.
Yes, that would work. Given their level, the students should be able to provide some answers to that, using fairly basic vocabulary. At the bottom, you can see a list of aids: textbook, blackboard, chalk eraser, pictures of rock climbing and mountain climbing.
The pictures will help to explain the vocabulary. A picture dictionary can be very useful in such situations. By the way, when I write the name of any textbooks I'm using, would you suggest that I add some details?
You mean like the publisher and page numbers?
Yes.
I would certainly note down the page numbers. It's probably a good idea to add the author, but probably not necessary to add the publisher. Mind you, if other people are going to see your lesson plan, it might be a good idea, because they might want the book themselves. Knowing the publisher makes it easier for them to find it.
Do you recommend keeping lesson plans?
Having stored plans for years, it has become clear to me that no 2 classes are exactly alike, and this limits the potential for recycling lesson plans. However, one suggestion I can make is that you keep your ideas rather than necessarily the whole plan. These can be kept on postcards that are organised by topic, perhaps with cross-references for level, skill or structure, and then kept for easy access. This is really easy if you do it on a computer.
Can you recommend any books for helping with the creation of lesson plans?
My favourite book is Lesson Plans from Nothing by John Davis. You can get it from the bookstore on campus. If you're interested in knowing how others do their lesson plans, or just simply need a lesson plan now, because you have no time, try these websites.
That looks like a useful list. Thank you very much.
More and more American parents are becoming interested in having their children learn Chinese. This is not only a case of having their children attend private classes, or of schools teaching the language instead of or in addition to the West European languages that are traditionally studied in the States, like Spanish, French and German. Oh no! Studying geometry can be taxing for any 10-year-old. But a select number of American schools, children are not only learning about angles, they're doing it in Chinese. This select number of schools is growing, since Chinese is a hot language thanks to China's surging economy and growing world clout. Even children as young as 6 are honing their Chinese at school, motivated by a mix of parental prodding and their own desire to do something different. I went to see one of these schools, and it really is amazing when you walk into a kindergarten classroom and the children are understanding what the teacher is saying, and it's all in Chinese. Half of the time, the kids aren't even aware that the teacher is speaking a different language. They just fall right into it. The United States has declared this year to be the Year of Languages, although few Americans are aware of the designation. According to a survey by the Language Association, more college students are studying foreign languages than ever before. Enrollment in Chinese has risen by 20% over the past 3 years. The 1.4 million students learning 15 leading languages represents a 17% increase over the same period. However, only 9.3% of Americans are able to speak a second tongue, compared to 52.7% of Europeans, according to the Census Bureau. At first glance, weighty national priorities take a back seat to the fun of cultural exchange at Potomac Elementary. Hallways are festooned with Chinese art and learning aids, such as stuffed animals labelled with Chinese names. Children sing Chinese folk songs and American nursery rhymes in Chinese. In the 5th grade immersion class, songs and games come only after a rigorous vocabulary drill and lessons on triangles and trapezoids, all taught in Chinese. The students are good at listening and do pretty well at reading, but writing is their weak point, according to the class teacher, who has a PhD in education and was a teacher in his native Beijing. I asked 2 of the children, a boy and a girl, about their experiences of learning Chinese. The boy said that mastering Chinese characters was tough. When I asked why, he said that he finds the writing particularly hard because you have to do the strokes in the right order. The girl said that learning Chinese is cool and that she is starting to catch on to the complex writing system of characters that contain elements of meaning and sound. She pointed out that it is quite different to English because there's nothing like letters to refer to. However, she noted that she can remember how to write Coca-Cola in Chinese because it has a lot of little boxes that refer to a mouth. This visual aspect of Chinese characters and how it influences children when they are learning the language is a theme I'll return to later. Even though it is clearly the parents who are pushing for more Chinese classes, my research revealed that they are not usually pushing their children too hard, which I think is a good thing. Parents of the kids say they are loath to plan careers for 10-year-olds. To quote one of them, "Even if my child doesn't use her Chinese going forward, she's learned so much about another culture." Some of the parents are encouraging their children, directly or indirectly, by taking night classes in Chinese. This has been proven to be a great motivator. If children see their parents learning something, they will usually take an interest in learning it too, or at least take a greater interest in learning generally. Dreams of selling Coca-Cola and other American products to China have helped drive the interest in Chinese studies. According to the Language Association, 640 U.S. colleges offer Chinese programs, while 102 schools from kindergarten to 12th grade teach Chinese. Teaching Chinese is also of keen interest to the U.S. government, which launched the National Education Program in 1994 to fund university studies of languages of key world regions, including East Asia and the Middle East. In 2002, the NEP announced that it was placing particular emphasis on programs to teach Arabic, Chinese, Korean and Russian. I spoke to some students who had just started learning Chinese here at this university. All of them had learnt Chinese since the age of 11, and some had started even earlier. Student A said he had started learning Chinese 8 years ago because he thought it would be pretty fun. However, as he began contemplating college, he recognized that there were good opportunities for employment in China upon graduation. As he said, China is expanding fast, and now they need services, including lawyers and business people. Student B said that she wants to follow her father and start her own business and have an office in China. Student C said that he thought his studies would bring national gain as well as personal achievement. To quote him, "When a lot of kids like us grow up and hopefully are able to speak Chinese and get a job with businesses who are trading and doing business with China, it will be a big leap for our country."
Hello, my name is Garcia. I phoned earlier about finding accommodation.
Ah, yes, Mr. Garcia, I took your call. Please take a seat. You said on the phone that you are studying at the university.
That's right. I'm currently in University Digs, but I have decided to move out.
May I ask why?
Well, the accommodation itself is fine, very nice in fact, but it's catered accommodation, and I find having to have my meals at fixed times somewhat restrictive. I tried to get into self-catering accommodation, but there's very little of that available, and as I will be a second-year student next academic year, I wasn't given a place.
I see. We have many students coming to us who are in the same situation. Do you intend to live alone or share with someone?
I have 2 friends, from Spain and from Colombia, who would like to share with me. We thought it would be a good idea to rent a small house together. Does that sound sensible to you?
Sure. In fact, I recommend it. Where are you from, Mr. Garcia?
I'm from Mexico.
Really? I went there on holiday last year. Lovely. So, you're looking for a 3-bedroom house? How about a flat? Would that be okay?
Yes, that would be fine too. But if the rents are roughly the same, we'd prefer a house with a small garden, just somewhere where we can sit outside in the sunshine.
Of course. We do have houses, but more flats are available at the moment. Is there any particular area you'd like to live in?
Obviously, we'd like to be close to the university if possible, but not too close. My experience is that people living in the proximity of the uni tend to get a lot of people dropping in. We'd like to avoid that.
I understand. Places further from the uni are also a little cheaper in general. Before we go on, could I take down a few details?
Of course. My full name is Manuel Garcia. I currently live at 35C Campus Lane.
Thank you. And your telephone number and email address?
My mobile number is 0453 672 348. My email address is garcianuk@email.uk.
How old are you and your future housemates?
I'm 19. My friends are 19 and 20.
And are you all male?
Yes.
Smokers?
No.
Okay, how much would you be prepared to pay altogether?
We heard that £200 to £250 a month would be possible.
Yes, that's about right. Accommodation in this town is below the average for the country as a whole. I'd recommend something closer to £250, since the lower paid accommodation can be rather poor quality.
Yes, it's important to feel good in a home. We intend to move in at the beginning of July. We've all got placements over the summer holiday.
That's good. A lot of landlords will offer a small discount if they know that you'll be there throughout the year. I think we'll find something decent for around £230 a month. I should point out that utilities are not included.
I understand. We expected that. By the way, we understand that you will charge us a fee for arranging accommodation. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. We charge you half a month's rent and the landlord half a month's rent. That includes the cost of drawing up a rental agreement. All our landlords require a deposit of a month's rent. payable with the first month's rent upon signing the agreement.
That's fine.
Now, I'll just write down the kind of place you're looking for. I don't think that'll be a problem. Do you have any other requirements?
Let me think for a minute. Oh, of course, how could I forget? It must be furnished. We don't mind buying kitchen utensils. A TV, yes, we'll need that. We don't need a video or DVD player. Oh, and a washing machine. That's essential, as is an internet connection. I presume all the accommodation you offer has a cooker.
Yes, you don't have to worry about that. Do you prefer a bath or shower?
We'd prefer to have a shower, but we're not fussy about that.
Right then, I'll send you the details of 3 or 4 of the most suitable properties later today by email. Then you can let me know whether you'd like to see any of the properties or whether you'd prefer to see details of some others. Thank you for dropping by, Mr. Garcia. What was your holiday location and how did you hear about it?
My holiday location was Wairara in New Zealand. It is a thermal spa resort. I was there last year with my parents, my sister, and a couple of friends of my parents. My father and my little sister, who inherited the medical problems from my father, need to go to a thermal spa every year for treatment. They used to go to the Polynesian spa in Rotorua, another famous resort in New Zealand, but last year they decided that they fancied a change. I had never gone with them to a spa because I preferred to spend my holiday at home or go to other places, but last year, when they changed the location, I decided to go with them. I also decided to go because my sister really wanted me to go with her. My parents found out about this location from some of the people they met in Rotorua. These people said that they were more satisfied with the accommodation and facilities at the Wairara Spa. So my parents were curious, and when they returned home they asked me to search on the internet for some information. They were impressed with the information I found, and it was then that they decided to plan a trip there.
So you went with your family and your parents' friends?
Yes, I travelled with my parents, my little sister and some family friends with their 3 children. So that altogether we were 9 people. I was lucky because in the other family there was a boy 1 year older than me, so I had someone to pass the time with and have some fun. There were a lot of elderly people and kids at the spa town, so I was happy that he was with me. We had similar interests. It's good to be with someone with your own age when you're on holiday.
How much time did you spend finding out information about this spa?
I didn't spend so much time searching for the information, because the spa has a website that was easy to find. We wanted some more information that wasn't on the website, particularly about how to get there. But we went to a travel agency and they gave us the information that we didn't have, and made the reservations for all of us.
Can you tell us the thing you like most at the spa?
There were so many things that I liked there. I especially liked the accommodation. We stayed at the Wairara Holiday Inn, which is situated right on the beach. It offers spectacular sea views. I think that I'll never forget it.
Were there any things that you were not satisfied with?
I think that the bad side of this vacation was that there were so many old people and many children. Luckily there were some play areas for children, and they stayed there most of the time.
How was your room? Did you have everything you needed?
Yes, we had everything we needed. Everything was comfortable and the conditions were great, so I have nothing to complain about.
Did you make any new friends? Are you still in touch?
Everyone was very gentle and warm. They really made a good impression. When we needed some help, they were very helpful and I felt great. I'm still in touch with the son of my parents' friends.
How did you spend your time? Did you participate in any recreational activities?
I don't have any medical problems like my father and sister, but I still went to the thermal spa. There were a lot of recreational activities to enjoy if we wanted. For example, I played golf because there was a mini golf course. Basketball and volleyball were also available, but we couldn't get enough people together for 2 proper teams. I also went to swim and I also went scuba diving on the reef, not far from the hotel. There was a small group of us with an instructor. It was truly amazing. I cannot describe in words how I felt down there. It was like I was in paradise. So, you've all told me that you have been having difficulties with taking part in seminar discussions. I've invited you here to see if we can come up with some suggestions and solutions. Sometimes talking about these things can be helpful. Mika, you said that you think speaking and listening abilities are related.
Yes, it was really difficult because basically I wasn't good at listening during discussions. You know, you need to understand what is going on, so if you miss some things that people say, it's very difficult to catch up with the topic. Also, when the tutor asked me a question, sometimes I couldn't understand the question and I was answering by making a guess about what he was asking. Usually, the result was that he said something like, "I think you didn't understand my question," which was quite embarrassing for me.
Martina, have you personally had many difficulties taking part in discussions?
Oh yes, definitely. Especially in the very beginning of the course. In terms of speaking, I think I feel that the students, when they talk in class, there is no end to the conversation. They sometimes talk continuously regardless of whether you raise a hand. However, they will usually stop and let you speak if you just interrupt someone. At the beginning, I think I was trying to adapt to this kind of environment or classroom chemistry. It was also difficult because of my language ability. At the beginning, students, especially native speaker students, well, their English is... Well, I don't need to comment about their English, but the speed and the fluency of their English made interaction or intervention, interruption, very difficult for students like me, like us, non-native speakers. One thing I learnt to try and do is to think and try to anticipate where the discussion might go, so that when, for example, they talk about something, like when they talk about, for example, how children think, I can get some ideas in my mind and then I can join in. Before, by the time I had collected all my thoughts and was ready to join in, the discussion had moved on. So basically, I think it requires you to think quickly and think ahead if you want to join in.
Mikhail, have you done anything to try and improve and to participate in such discussions? I think I have. For example, now I have more discussions with my classmates outside the classroom and talk about them with some of the questions raised in the seminars. If you ask tutors about your concerns, they listen to you very carefully and they pay attention to the issue in future seminars. They also try to, how do you say it in English, catch your eye and see if you are ready to make a comment. If you are, they interrupt the native speakers and, what's the other idiom, give you the floor. That's it. Tutors are very good at accommodating all the people in the room, but you have to let them know you want to speak. Eye contact and body language can be useful. Martina, with regards to speaking in discussions, what advice would you give to another student coming to study in England?
Be polite when you discuss something or argue something. Don't be aggressive. Just be polite and argue in a polite way. And if you say something wrong, just admit it. English students don't mind if you make a mistake, and you should admit it and then continue the argument or discussion. If I have a really good idea or previous knowledge about the subject under discussion, my view is respected. But if I don't have anything to say about the topic, that's not good. So I advise the students from overseas to be prepared and to be polite. It's a good chance for you to talk and share. Take it.
Mika, what advice would you give to international students about how to prepare for discussion activities?
If you want to improve your English abilities, it takes some time. You must be realistic. You cannot make a quick improvement easily. But what you can do immediately is to have enough knowledge on that subject. If you have enough knowledge, for example, if you know technical terms, there is a much higher probability that you will understand the content of the seminar. You can also help yourself by using your English outside seminars. If you make some friends from your seminar groups, you will also find that they like to discuss topics with you in the seminars. So that's the advice I would give. I agree with Martina about being prepared before the discussion. I find that English students are very interested in how things are done or tackled in other countries. However, they can be impatient if you take too long to express yourself.
Well, thank you very much. I hope that's given you a few ideas. Now, there is something else I can suggest. Hello everybody, and thank you for coming. I know that you're all very busy at this time, but I hope that by coming to this talk, you'll at least get some useful information for when you go to study overseas. Well, today I want to talk about the effect of cultural background on learning style. That is, how a learner's culture might impact on his or her approach to study. I want to begin by looking at some basic cultural values and how these affect teaching and learning. I'll then go on to present evidence which shows that approaches to learning which are acceptable in one culture may not be acceptable in another. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them at the end of the talk. Now, I want to start by introducing the two concepts. They are actually contrasting concepts. These are conserving and extending cultures. What do these terms mean? Experts have categorized cultures as being either basically conserving or extending in their attitude to the transmission of knowledge. Let me give you an example to try to make this clear. A good example of a conserving cultural attitude is demonstrated by most Arabic cultures. Here there is the requirement to learn the Holy Book, the Quran, by heart. This demands a huge effort of memorization, as you can imagine. The way the Quran is learnt impacts on the way other subjects are learnt generally. It might also have an effect on learners' perception of what constitutes an acceptable teaching style. By this I mean that the unquestioning acceptance of the messages in the Quran and the concentration and repetition necessary to memorize those messages are transferred to the learning of school subjects and to the expectations students have on teachers. That's Arab culture. Let's turn now to Chinese culture. There is evidence to suggest that Chinese culture is conserving in nature. For example, keeping quiet in the classroom, listening to the teacher, not talking to other students, not interacting. These tend to characterize the Chinese classroom. As a result, Chinese learners do not develop argumentation skills as quickly as their American counterparts. American students tend to be actively encouraged to question their teachers, their materials, and to interact with other classmates. However, I have to say, in the interests of balance, that Chinese students tend to work with greater concentration. But this is not the point I'm trying to make. The point is that some cultures display a conserving attitude to teaching and learning, while others display a more extending attitude to learning. Now, the memorization and non-interactive styles of learning encouraged, for example, in Arab and Chinese cultures, may disadvantage learners, at least initially, when they progress from secondary school to university. Why is this? Well, it's because universities worldwide are increasingly adopting, with a few local variations, the Western requirement for students to show argumentation skills in written assignments and effective interpersonal skills in tutorials and seminars. In other words, the world model for university teaching and learning is now the Western model, the interactive model, if you like. Now, of course, students from conserving backgrounds who go on to study in an extending culture will obviously need to adapt to a different learning style to accommodate to the new conditions. This, unsurprisingly, can often prove to be a painful process. However, such learners are able to make the transition quite successfully, with guidance from academic staff, and a lot of determination from their own part to unlearn or dismantle the study-related approaches and strategies acquired in their own cultures. Let me give you some examples from real life to try to illuminate this issue. I've put these on slides. Now let's look at the comments made by 3 Asian students who found the Western university system of teaching and learning very different from their previous experience. If you just look at the screen, I've put these comments on slides, as I said. This is what a Chinese undergraduate from Shanghai studying at an Australian university had to say. Generally, many of us are trained in a system where you don't contribute much to classroom discussions. Some students even hesitate to ask questions from lecturers. Here's what a master's student from Japan studying at an English university in London had to say. In Japanese culture and education, the emphasis on training seems to be on intuition rather than logical construction of arguments. This makes it much harder to study at my British university. Finally, let's take a look at the comments by an Indian research student studying at an American university. One problem was getting used to the American system, where a student is expected to find out for herself or himself the requirements and facilities of the university. This contrasts with the system at home, whereby a person, generally the lecturer or supervisor, is responsible for the needs of the student. To sum up then, there is certainly evidence to show that the cultural values of a society affect the way that society's educational institutions function and how the teaching in them is carried out. While ensuring the continuation of cultural identity and solidarity, the existence of culturally determined patterns of teaching and learning means that individual learning style, the way a learner would prefer to learn, is largely ignored in classrooms around the world. Well, that's all I want to say for the moment. I hope you'll find what I've said interesting and useful when you go overseas to study. Are there any questions?
Good morning, sir. How can I help you?
I'd like to rent a car, please.
Certainly. What kind of car were you thinking of?
Oh, a small or medium-sized one. Could you show me a brochure or leaflet with the different available types?
Of course. We have one type of small car and 2 types of medium-sized ones. As you can see, the small type is called the Iota, and the medium ones are called the Combi and the Roadster.
Thank you. I see the Iota offers 20 miles to the gallon in urban areas.
Yes, it's certainly very economical. The Combi is almost as good at 18 miles to the gallon. The Roadster offers 17. Is that right?
You're right.
Of course, those mileages go up substantially when driving on motorways.
Of course. I'll be driving around town. The only time I'll be using a motorway is from here, the airport, to the centre.
I see. Well, I'd recommend the small Iota. Parking can be difficult in town, and it's a touch easier with a small vehicle.
Yes, of course. Let me just look at prices before making a final decision. I'm here on business and will need the car for 4 days. The daily rate for the Iota is
£20 plus tax. The Combi is £25 and the Roadster is £27. Again, those prices are before tax.
The tax is 15%, right?
Yes, so the total costs are £23, £28.75 and £31.05 per day, respectively.
Do those prices include insurance?
Yes, they do. However, the insurance only covers one driver, the one who signs the rental agreement. We can cover other drivers for an additional fee.
That's okay. I'm here alone. Okay, I'll take the Iota. Oh, what about fuel costs?
All of our cars have a full tank when customers take them. If the car is returned with a full tank, there's no additional fee. Otherwise, we have to charge for the tank to be refilled.
I see. There's a filling station here at the airport, so I'll take care of that there when I return the car.
That's what most of our customers do. Could I take a few details? Then I'll print out 2 copies of the rental agreement for you to sign. I'll need your name and the name of your company first of all.
My name is David Brown. That's Brown with an E. My company name is Hectrix Electronics. That's spelt Hectrix.
And what is the company's address, please?
It's Unit 2, Arlington Close, Battleton, Yorkshire.
And the telephone number?
0675 934 888.
Will you be using a company credit card or your own one?
I have a company credit card. There you are.
Thank you. I'll just run this through the machine. Could you enter your PIN, please? Thanks. OK, I've entered the details of the rental, but I've left the rest blank in case there are any extra charges, such as fuel.
Right. I should sign here, shouldn't I?
Yes, please. Now, let me tell you a few things about the car. There's a first aid kit in the boot. That has to be there by law. There's also a torch in the glove compartment, just in case. Do you have a map of the town?
No, I don't. I was hoping you could provide one.
That's no problem. Here you are. You won't need one for the surrounding area, will you?
No, I won't. Thank you. Is that everything?
Yes, the car is parked over there. It's the blue one. The registration number is K758SMD.
Ah, yes, I see it.
Here are the keys. The car has an alarm that you can switch on and off using this button here.
Does the car have central locking?
Yes, it does.
Well, thank you very much. Goodbye.
Goodbye, sir.
What was your holiday location and how did you hear about it?
My holiday location was New York. I heard about visiting New York from some friends who were there and who were impressed of the beauty of the city and who even decided to stay there and start a new life. My friend and I received an invitation last summer from these friends, so I spent my holiday there. It was the best holiday I've ever been on.
So you just went there with one friend, right?
Yes, I travelled with my best friend and it was very exciting because it was the first time either of us had travelled by plane. Our excitement grew higher and higher as we got close to New York. At the airport I saw a lot of foreigners who had come there to work or to visit this incredible city. And I must say I was amazed by the number of these foreigners. I don't think I have ever seen so many foreign people in one place.
How much time did you spend finding out information about New York and what resources did you use?
I gathered the information I needed from my friends who lived there, from the internet, from the brochures that I took from the American Embassy, and of course from the travel agency where I got an idea of the cost of the trip and the flights. We got cheaper tickets by not taking a direct flight. We changed planes in London.
Can you tell us the thing you like most in this place?
The thing I liked most in New York was definitely the variety of buildings and monuments. I also enjoyed the parks. They were great. New York is a unique city. It's like you are in the middle of the world. It's considered by many to be the economic centre of the world. I also like the people. Some people told me that New Yorkers have a reputation for being unfriendly, but I didn't notice this.
Were there any things that you didn't like?
I think that the downside of my holiday was that there are crowds on the streets every day, almost all day long. Also, sometimes the bad weather that kept us in the house.
How was your accommodation?
My friends live in a big flat. My friend and I shared a bedroom, which was very big and comfortable, and most of all, we had the perfect view overlooking the ocean. So I must say that we had all the comfort we needed. They even gave us access to a computer for us to check our email or to play on when we were in the mood and when the weather was bad.
You said that the people there were fine.
Yes, the people from New York are very kind, and now I will tell everybody I know this. Whenever we needed help on the street because we didn't know where to go or because we found the map confusing, they always gave us a hand and helped us find our way.
Did you make any new friends? Have you kept in touch?
Yes, I made some new friends there. I made friends with my friends' neighbours. We spent much of our time together, and sometimes they were our guides around the city.
How did you spend your time? Did you participate in any recreational activities?
During the day, we went visiting and walking on the streets for hours, and when the weather was bad, we played a lot of chess. We had the chance to participate in the 78th annual feast of San Gennaro, but we missed the 36th annual African American Day parade through the whole of Manhattan. And we went to the Richmond County Fair on Staten Island, which amazed us in every possible way. Come in, everyone. The office might be a bit crowded with 4 of us and all these materials. There's coffee over there, help yourselves. Now, we're here to discuss 3 types of learners: kinesthetic, visual, and auditory, and how we can teach each type. I gave each of you one of them to consider. Jack, can we look at yours first, please? You were assigned to kinesthetic learners, weren't you?
Yes, I was. The first idea I had was using gestures, particularly finger gestures. Teachers can use them to emphasize stress on certain syllables. They can also use their fingers to write words in the air, spelling out the letters. The second thing is that the teacher can use the board. The teacher can ask students to spell words by going to the board and writing them up. The teacher could also ask students to write a letter each, in order. The teacher could put a poster on the board and students could go to the board with labels and label it as directed by the teacher. Another possibility is to ask students to organize words into categories on the board.
Good. The important thing is to keep kinesthetic learners active, moving.
Games are good for them. Jack, did you think of any?
Yes, Helen. I thought of a couple. One is like charades. Divide the students into 2 or 3 teams. Give the students on one team some words and ask them to act them out. For example, if the word is cold, a student might shiver. The other teams have to guess the words.
Good idea. Simple but effective. Well done. Tina? Well, I was asked to think about teaching visual learners. Flashcards are good in my opinion. The students can guess words from seeing part of the flashcard, which can be a word or a picture. Or the teacher can show students the flashcards very quickly. Maybe that's how flashcards got their name. Flashcards can also have different background colours depending on which part of speech they are. Noun, verb, adjective, adverb, etc. Students could also learn from their peers by highlighting words they don't know, in a text for example, then helping each other with unknown words.
I know a good game for visual learners. Make a set of cards, half with words on and half with pictures. The cards are face down and students can turn over 2 at a time. If the word and picture match, they keep the cards. If they don't, they turn them face down again and the next student tries.
Great idea. Visual learners are often good at categorizing words. Each page in the student's notebook refers to a category of words. Students write new words on the correct page in their notebook for faster recall. For example, page 1 might be food, and page 2 could be telephone phrases. Spider diagrams are good too. Yes, they are. Helen, you were assigned auditory learners.
OK, I had these ideas for teaching auditory learners. First, they could listen to a dictation and draw what they hear. For example, students listen to the teacher describing items of furniture and then draw them in the appropriate rooms of the house. Or the teacher could describe a picture. After the description, the teacher and students can see whose picture was closest to the original. Flashcards can also be used. Each student gets a flashcard and may hold up their card when they hear that word or phrase in a song, poem or story. Another way of using them is to go around the class, with each student adding a sentence to a story, including the word on their flashcard.
Auditory learners can also learn using songs and music. Any suggestions? The teacher could give the students a text of a song, the lyrics with some words replaced by a rhyming word. Students then listen to the song and make corrections. That's a really good idea. Perfect for auditory learners. Well, thank you for your suggestions. I have a few other ideas you might consider.
Welcome to this class on note-taking. Let's take a look at the basics first of all. The first question we need to look at is, why take notes? The purpose of taking notes during a lecture is to help you to concentrate on what the speaker is saying and to provide you with a summary in note form so that you can write up your notes in full later. Also, it may be that the notes provided by the lecturer are not sufficient. The lecturer may add new information during the lecture, and your own notes will be needed to provide you with a complete record of the lecture. Taking your own notes will promote a deeper understanding of the content of the lecture. So, how do you take notes? The general principle in note-taking is to reduce the language by shortening words and sentences. The following advice will help you to take notes efficiently, leaving you free to listen to your lecturer. Remember that these notes are for you, and as such you can use any method you like, so long as it enables you to reproduce the ideas contained in the notes and show how these ideas connect to each other later. However, there are certain principles you should bear in mind, and certain conventions that are commonly used, which you may find useful. First of all, you must be able to determine what you need to write down. What is important to you? How do you know what is important and what is not? This is not an easy question to answer, but there are things you can look out for. The first piece of information you receive is the title of the lecture. This is perhaps the most important single piece of information of the whole lecture, so you should make sure that you write it down in full. Even better, find out what it is beforehand so that you can have time to think about what the lecture will be about. Secondly, listen for direct or indirect signals from the lecturer that tell you what is important. As a direct signal, for example, he or she may say, "This is important, write it down," or "Make sure you get this down," or he or she may make indirect signals such as pausing before saying something important, or saying it slowly, loudly, or with greater stress. Listen for repetition. When the lecturer repeats a point, go back to your first notes and add in any new details or information. When a teacher or lecturer recommends a student to read a book, it's usually for a particular purpose. The book may contain useful information about the topic being studied, or it may be invaluable for the ideas or views that it puts forward, and so on. In many cases, the teacher doesn't suggest that the whole book should be read. In fact, he may just refer to a few pages which have a direct bearing on the matter being discussed. Now, how should you write your notes? As mentioned above, you can make notes in any way that you like, but the following guidelines will help you to develop a style that is both quick and accurate. Concentrate on the important ideas. Avoid repetition and omit things that do not need to be stated specifically, because only you yourself will be reading the notes, and you will know what they are referring to. Summarize important ideas. You can use words that are not used by the lecturer to restate in a shorter form what he or she is saying. Write in short phrases rather than in complete sentences. Many students ask me when they should write up their notes. You might not have time to note down everything you want during the lecture itself, so you must rewrite them as soon as possible, so that you minimize the risk of forgetting something. Finally, you should decide on a personal note-taking style, and be willing to adapt according to whom you are listening. For more practice in note-taking, take a look at these books which can be found in the resource room. Study Listening by Tony Lynch, particularly Units 6 and 12. Then there's Learning to Study English by Brian Heaton and Don Dunmore, especially Units 5 and 10. The first one is published by Cambridge University Press, and the second one is published by Oxford University Press.